Hello, everyone. This is W, aka William, host of the High Art on the Edge page. Today's conversation is with none other than DKFM DJ extraordinaire Simon LECLERC. Simon has an amazing ability to share his love for vinyl in a way that is both educational and very entertaining. Listen as he talks about bands that he admires and has had an impact on his musical ears. So sit back and enjoy episode number 5, Simon Says Vinyl, as we will talk about records, Record Store Day, and other things related to music. We appreciate all of your attention that you give to this lovely event that we host once a month. Thank you so much. And enjoy Simon Says Vinyl.
Sunday, May 7th, 9:33 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Hello, everyone. My name is W, aka William, host of the High Art on the Edge page. It is a beautiful morning here. Actually, I prefer the clouds, as you know, most people here in the Bay Area. But we're not here to talk about the weather. We're here to talk vinyl. And of course, that means I'm here with DKFM DJ Simon LECLERC, all the way from Toronto, Canada. Hello, Simon. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, W. How are you doing?
Cheers to you. Making it to episode number 5.
Oh yeah, these just keep happening. Hey, cool, right?
We do. And I love them. And we're going to bring a little friend to the conversation, a little Tim Burgess.
Oh, there you go.
Yep. A little inspiration and some coffee, octane. For those of you who are tuning into this event, thank you so much. We appreciate your time. If you are a first-time viewer of this event, let me give you a little, some details on how this works. So Simon, quite knowledgeable about music, will share his vinyl picks with us, and he'll give us some background to the bands and maybe some tracks that we should really listen to and pay attention to, blah, blah, blah. And while he's doing that, feel free to ask him questions along the way. We love taking questions. And if you have any vinyl picks that you are spinning on your platter these days, let us know. We want to hear from you. You can just put that in the comment box as well. And it doesn't have to be vinyl. It could be Spotify, Apple, any social media platform, YouTube. It could be CD, cassette, or 8-track. Remember 8-tracks?
That's not dating us at all.
Did you ever have an 8-track?
I think I had 1 or 2 8-tracks when I was like, a small child.
Go-Go's, Beauty and the Beat.
I think I had Fleetwood Mac.
Okay.
I think that was it. And like Paul Simon. Anyways, yeah.
Very nice. So Simon is actually we're going to do this first, if you don't mind. Just tell us a little bit about who you are, in case we have some viewers here that don't know.
Yeah. No, I'm obviously based in Toronto. Hey, Vishala. She put her name next to it. So I'm based in Toronto, and I do a show on DKFM called Melomania Safety Zone every 2 weeks on Thursday evenings. And so that's my musical cathartic outlet that I enjoy doing. Other than that, my life is currently revolving around becoming a psychotherapist. So everything I'm doing is about setting up my practice and getting all of that stuff rolling. And
how's that coming along?
It's awesome. I'm pumped for it, I guess. I don't like using that expression. It sounds weird, but I'm really excited and nervous and have all the feelings that I feel like I should have at this point. And I get started tomorrow. Tomorrow I will be seeing my first clients. So here I go. Yeah. It's been quite the voyage, but here I go. Yeah.
Well, cheers to you. It's been nice following along with this.
Yeah.
And this journey with you.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you sharing whatever you're willing to share with us.
Yeah, no, it's been great kind of commenting on it with you here and there, since you're interested in psychology and counseling and things like that. So it's been fun to share those tidbits here and there as well, along with the music. The music is my outlet. The music is my safe zone. That's the whole, like, the Melomania Safety Zone name, like Melomania being the sort of the condition where you have like you're drawn to rapid beats, or you tap a lot, and it's it's a psychological condition in the DSM, and the safety zone being that you can come find solace and safety with me as we indulge in music on the show. So even the name of my show came from a psychological concept. Yeah.
And I don't think you've ever shared that in one of these episodes, by the way.
No. Yeah. It's just, and I mean, I started this whole thing, it was a Facebook page over a decade ago that I did with a few friends, and I called it Melomania Safety Zone. So it was just like, it's a safe place. Just throw out some music and we'll all geek out about it, and it'll be a good time. And that's still my ideology behind music in my life, for sure. Yeah.
Did we talk about Record Store Day?
We didn't. No.
Okay.
I don't really do it anymore. It got a bit too. I did the first few, and then it just got a little bit bananas for me. I kind of went a few times, and they're not pressing as many things that I'm looking for. And so the first few times I went, there was some gems that I picked up that I was super. That Verve EP was a Record Store Day. That was an RSD. But the past couple of years, I look at the listing and I'm kind of like, there's one or two things that I wouldn't mind getting, but what are the chances it's going to show up at my local record shop? Who am I going to have to like fight off with a stick to get to it? So it's okay. I got lots of vinyl, so I don't need a day. I can just go shopping whenever I want.
I found that when I go much later in the day, where all the crowds subside and have kind of withered out,
right?
There's still a lot left in the bin, and I usually find one or two.
Well, probably because you're looking for the stuff that's a little bit more specialized as well, right? Because that'll linger a little bit longer in a lot of the bins.
I don't need the ninth Cure picture.
No, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, all right. Well, speaking of vinyl, you've got some picks for us.
Yep. So I got my picks today. So I'm going to start off with sort of like new release picks.
Great.
And so this next record is kind of a no-brainer. If you don't have this album, you need to get this album. And so, And so, do you know this cover? W?
Is that Flying Colors?
That is Flying Colors.
Yeah.
Okay. So their new album that came out just a little while ago.
You Never Know.
You Never Know, but you all should know. That title just lends itself to all kinds of corny jokes. It's probably going to be the album of the year for a lot of folks in my circle. Well, the circle of shoegaze, dream pop, super enthusiasts. They did some really nice sort of pressings of the vinyl as well. They described this, I think, as like electric cloud or something like that. It's kind of a light blue. It's very nice with the snazzy name. But the album itself it's incredible. And it's one of those things you put it on the first time, you're like, this is really good. And then you keep listening to it and you're like, oh my, it just keeps getting better and better. But it's definitely going to be my top 3. I never want to say like best album of the year, but this has got to be in my top 3 for the year by the end of the year, because it's incredible. It's really good. This and the Body Wash record that I'm waiting for in the mail are my 2 favorite records so far this year. Yeah.
So with Flying Colors, what is it about this band's work that you really appreciate?
So it's interesting because the first, like the early EPs and the first album, Mindfulness, psychology stuff, they were great. I loved all of it. Fantastic stuff. The second album didn't quite click with me as much. They kind of cranked more of the grunge elements of their sound, which is cool. It was a good album. It just didn't resonate with me personally. And I think that was called like Big Fantasy or something like that. It was decent, but this new album is kind of a return, but also they're integrating a little bit more synth work. And so I find that it's leaning harder on synth. There's a few like synth poppy songs on here actually, which was a surprise. And also more like old 90s indie rock elements. So it's got more variety, but less grunge. And so it's still shoegaze and dream pop, but a bit more in the indie rock and synth pop realms, I find, which is right in my wheelhouse very much.
And tell us like the
Oh, I lost you.
There we go. Tell us, so they're from Australia? Yeah. They've had a shoegaze nice little spring to life there. Right?
Australia?
Yeah.
Australia is incredible for shoegaze.
Yeah. So when did that all start?
Holy crap. Well, I'm trying to think, because I've been getting Australian shoegaze records for at least the past decade, where there'd be a really cool band. There's a focus on shoegaze there that doesn't exist in other parts of the world. I mean, the US has got a really solid shoegaze scene. We've talked about this before. I think the funny part is that it feels like England made fun of shoegaze so much that they only have a sprinkling of shoegaze bands because they got so crapped on back in the day. But Australia's fantastic for that stuff. There's the Greg Peters show. He's a DJ out of Australia, and he does some amazing radio shows, and he will do shows that are just entirely Australian based. Yeah. But I mean, it's dream pop as well. Like Japanese Heart Software, who's one of my favorite artists right now, she's out of Australia as well. And so there's a lot of, you could tap Australia for a lot of really good shoegaze and dream pop. Yeah.
Is there a particular track on You Never Know that you would recommend?
Ooh. Well, for me, the one that clicked, I live in a small town. I live in a small town. It feels like a 90s, almost like indie rock track. And so amazing chorus, though. Really good bridge and really good chorus, which is my 1980s wheelhouse.
Can you hear it?
Yep. As I lean closer to the screen, like that's going to help.
Yeah. Just a lot of zip. Just like cut to the chase. Let's go.
Yeah.
Beautiful. No, a lot of people have been endorsing this record and really celebrating it.
It's incredible.
Great pick.
Yeah. You got to have that record. If you're into indie, shoegaze, all that kind of stuff, it's tops.
Yeah, and oh wait, never mind. No. No, my favorite song here is "Goodbye to Music."
Yeah, that's one of the synthy or pop songs.
Yeah, it's just got this amazing groove. Great
it's
beat.
Almost like Wild Nothing-esque.
Yes,
think of Wild Nothing.
A little bit on the later side of Wild Nothing, not so much the dream pop.
Yeah,
and a little bit of cut copy.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, sort of that modular record sound. Yeah.
All right, so we go from Australia to.
I gotta go. This.
Zune. Oh.
Yeah, I'm like I'll get the word in there. Yeah, Zune Zune Gaidawin was the original name. I guess Zune's easier to say than Zune Gaidawin. Becca Maingan is the new record that just came out from Daniel Monkman, and so their story is fascinating. So I'll say a little bit, but Daniel Monkman is somebody that you can research, and it's an incredible story in terms of how they sort of became the artists they are today, because it was a very long journey for Daniel. And he does very, very kind of shapes and texture style of shoegaze dream pop. So it's like you're in the clouds. It's very floaty. Yes. And that continues on this record in a beautiful fashion. Also, I mean, the title of the record, I looked this up. The title of the record means like slow down or wolf. Right. I was like one or the other. So
and how do you pronounce it?
It's supposed to be. I looked it up as well. Becca Maingan. Becca Maingan.
Got it.
And it's a Ojibwe. And so because they're an indigenous artist. And this album is an exploration of a new two-spirit identity for Daniel. And so thematically, there are things that cross into that, which I think are incredible. Really, Daniel sort of reinvented the Zune sort of, I don't want to say like not brand, because it's never really a brand in their case, but just the identity in making this. And so it's a brave record, and it's a beautiful record. You really can sit back and melt into your seat. And the vinyl pressing is quite nice.
You played one of the tracks, I think, a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous.
Beautiful music.
Yeah, people that are watching, this is a good one.
And so, and vinyl's kind of fun.
Look at that splatter. Love it.
It's a nice press. And so,
Do you know how many pressings there were for that one?
no, I mean, there was a special Bandcamp signed one that had 100 copies. That was like an electric blue that I didn't end up getting. I got this one. But I don't know. This should be Paper Bag Records. So the label, it should be accessible. It should be something you can get without too much of a headache. It's a Canadian record label, but they're one of the bigger, if not the biggest. So like Broken Social Scene. So like people know them. It's that label.
Got it.
And so, but definitely got to represent, and just a gorgeous, gorgeous record from Zoom. Yeah.
Standout blue ribbon track for you?
I keep switching my mind on this because it's one of those things where because it's very floaty, it goes from track to track and you don't know which track it's on. I think the one that I played on the air was track 4, Gagige, or Gagige, which was lovely.
So, have you met him?
I've met them, yeah. Briefly. There's been a few shows. I met them at the Monarch Tavern, which is a small venue in Toronto. And they were packing up their stuff at the end of their set. And I walked over and introduced myself and was just like, huge fan, DKFM. Because I try to use that as like do you know DKFM? And they were like, yes, I know DKFM. Very soft-spoken, very quiet, but very friendly. Appreciated my wanting to meet them. I think.
That's it.
Yeah.
I want to definitely take I haven't listened to the album yet, but I remember that single that you shared. And I was swept off my feet with that.
Yeah, 2 incredible. Like, they've put out 2 records. Both of them are really, really good. Very, very good. Yeah.
All right. So they're from Canada.
Yeah, originally from the Winnipeg area, sort of out west, but they've settled in Toronto and actually are quite entrenched in the community in Toronto now in terms of indie music and sort of promoting small shows and things like that. So there's something called Wavelength in Toronto where they put on indie shows that are Canadian based. And so Daniel's moved into I think one of the higher positions in that organization. It's like a volunteer organization to put on shows in Toronto, and they've done a great job. Yeah.
So we go from Melbourne to Winnipeg to
your next weekend's people to Glasgow.
Yeah, to Glasgow. Very nice.
Gotta love the tour around the world. So I had to show it's such a great record. And Colin and Brian seem like such nice guys. They've Colin in particular shows up for a lot of my radio shows, for a lot of these shows. Sent this to me, which I was like, oh, this is postage is expensive, but just sent this to me, and it's one of those records where it hits my sweet spot of overlap between post rock, post punk, shoegaze. So it kind of has a bit of all of those elements streaming throughout, and that's it's such a sweet combination. And they reached out to me to premiere the first single off the album on the show a few months back. So I was quite honored because I had played them before. And so Colin reached out to me and was like, do you want to premiere a track off the new album? I'm like, yes, please.
Look at, and do you know, I'm going to, maybe we don't want to reveal this yet, but maybe. Do you know where the album cover, like where that was shot or anything?
No, I don't actually.
Yeah, I don't either. So maybe
I thought the way you said that, I thought you knew.
Maybe you would know since you know.
No, they gave me the MP3s of the album and went, pick something. They let me pick the single I wanted to play. They're like, listen to the whole thing. You decide what fits into your show, that was awesome. So I got to listen to it a bunch of times and then go, okay, this is going to fit into a show that I'm doing. Because Colin knows I shape a show as like a cohesive piece. I don't just play singles. I want it to have ebbs and flows and to play off of like the tracks to play off of each other. So some stuff gets pushed to the side sometimes because I don't feel like it fits the flow. And so I found one that fit the flow, and gorgeous stuff. Yeah.
And so that album was mastered by none other.
Simon Scott. He's just, does he not, are there any albums he doesn't master?
So for those of you that are watching and not familiar with who Simon Scott is, look at Simon's t-shirt.
Oh, yeah. Slow dive. It's so funny, these cameras, I gotta go backwards. Slow dive.
So
drummer.
Simon's like the it guy right now.
He's very it. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, him and like Mark Gardner, it's sort of funny that it's like ride and slow dive fellas that are helping other people put records out or mixing or mastering, all this kind of stuff. But yeah, actually the funny part about the credits of this record is my name's next to, you'll be able to see it, but Simon Scott is the name right before Simon LECLERC in the thank you section. And I was just like, yes.
I looked at, because on, there's a bunch of people on there.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah. They thank like Greg Wilson and Vinca.
Yeah.
Greg Peters that I mentioned, the Australian DJ, he's on here as well. Yeah, there's loads of people from our circle. Chrissy's on here, of course, and so is Mark. Anyways, just lots of folks that we know from the community. So it's kind of nice to see all our names together on the back of a great record.
So as Simon alluded to earlier, we're going to have a little event with Sun Shines Cold next week, honoring the echoes of a former life. I'm very curious to hear from you, Simon. Do you have a standout track, a favorite track?
It changed, but There Came a Rain. I keep going back to There Came a Rain. I dig that one. Yeah.
I'm doing this one for me.
Which one are you picking?
This one's Gone. It's towards the end.
Yeah. Second last, yeah.
There's a little bit of Cocteau Twins, like Treasure era.
The sound of the drum and like I agree.
A bit of this nice little Susie flair in there. No, it's wonderful. And they're just a pair, like Soft Set.
Yeah. Just two
great guys.
Cool music. Yeah.
Great guys. Very
so friendly. Like really nice, humble, friendly. Great guys. I'm looking forward to you sitting down with them and having a chat. So I hope I can tune in for that. Yeah.
That would be really nice. All righty. So we go from Glasgow to...
Well, actually, this is not a big jump from Glasgow. And so this is Andy Scott, Luxury Problems. This is my favorite album cover. I love this photograph. Yes. It's just... And I tried to look up any information about the photographer, about anything, and I found nothing. I couldn't. Nothing. Yeah, I must be looking in the wrong place. But this is one of those. This is always facing out on my my album area because I want people to see this. It's just beautiful, beautiful art. The record itself is also very good. And so this is for folks. This is taking a shift, obviously. So this is not shoegaze, although. Andy Stott says Numb in particular was inspired by My Bloody Valentine. So even though you don't necessarily hear it, there's a crunchy quality that he attributes to My Bloody Valentine on some of the tracks. Otherwise, it's sort of like IDM, sort of really gritty jungle stuff. And so electronic record. But beautiful textures, right? Like just the layering and the textures of this record makes me think it's almost like a gritty industrial version of LTJ Bookham. So I was a big drum and bass fan back in the day, and he had some beautiful like light drum and bass stuff. And so this is like a gritty version of that. So it's still got textures and layers and beauty to it, but it's like brutalist beauty in a lot of ways. Yeah.
So when did this techno wizard come about? When did he start to gain acclaim?
Andy Stott, you mean?
Yeah.
I think this might have been his first record. He created a record label called Modern Love that sort of housed these sort of left field electronic artists. And there's lots of good stuff on Modern Love. It feels like it's been about 20 years. This album, I think, is about 15 years old at this point, I would have to say, somewhere in that vein.
He's from Manchester?
I actually don't remember where he's from in the UK.
Okay.
Yeah, not off the top of my head. I just know he's British. But the exact location eludes me at the moment. I saw him live in Toronto on this tour. He played like a small venue with a lot of video. So you were just overwhelmed by, because his live performance sound is heavier and more rhythmic because people are dancing. So it's more like DJing. But it still had that like crunchy industrial edge to it. And you could, like, Numb came on and like you couldn't breathe because it was like collapsing your chest from the bass sound. It was so cool.
So for those of you listening, I hadn't heard this album that Simon recommended, and I listened to it. And remember what I messaged you? I mean, turn this album up, and man, your windows are going to be shaking. And it's a very immersive experience.
Yeah.
So just and that's what I was sitting in this chair, and I was enveloped by all this tremendous sound.
Well, it's a lot of heartbeat as well, right? And so there's a lot of heartbeat. His wife was actually pregnant with their first child, I think, when he was making this record. So there's certain things that he's doing that are related to the pregnancy of his wife. And the Sleepless song is about not getting any sleep as a new father. And so there's attributes. And like Numb has a heartbeat kind of sound to it, right? Like in terms of the bass, it's almost like a heartbeat.
It's gorgeous. So no information on the artwork there.
The cover part, yeah, that eluded me. I tried for a little while, and I had to get back to other paperwork I was doing. But I didn't find anything, just simple Googling. So if anybody knows where the photographer or who the photographer is or any of that stuff, let me know.
Luxury Problems, Andy Stott.
Andy Stott.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, let's just say somewhere in the UK. Where do we go next?
We're jumping over to another part of Europe, over to Germany. And so this is the No Twist.
My friend really likes him.
Your friend does. You not so much though, right?
So tell us about this one.
So this is Neon Golden. This for me is because they went through a lot of different phases in terms of their sound. They've gone through sort of like punk noise phases. They've gone through, now they're kind of a more experimental, noodly jazz electronic kind of phase with a little bit of a pop sensibility. But this was the sweet spot. What I tell people, because people don't know this one, is I go, remember the Postal Service album that everybody loved? Yeah, this came out around the same time and it's better.
Ooh, a little hot take controversy. I love it.
I think this came out like maybe a year or two before the Postal Service record did. I like the Postal Service record. It's good. I have it on vinyl too. But this one is just, there's more diversity to it. It's more interesting. And I like the influence of structure. And I saw them play this album live as well at Lee's Palace in Toronto. And it was such a good show. There was just a really neat element of synth poppiness a la Postal Service. So it was like a live band, but with some beats behind it. And then the occasional experimentation, but the experimentation always came back really nicely. So they already had that kind of like electronic jazz sensibility at that point where they would noodle off and then bring it back together. But it fit in well with like the Lollipuna kind of vibe of that day, that sort of synthy dream pop stuff. So
this is 2003.
Yeah, around that. It was like the early 2000s. Yeah, 2002, 2003, something like that. And it was one that my record store guy just handed to me when I walked in one day and went, "You need this." And I was like, "What's this?" And then I put it on. I'm like, "Yes, I do need this. This is incredible."
Is it just a standard black vinyl?
I believe so, yeah. Because this is the original pressing, and back then they didn't really do a whole lot of fancy vinyl colors. So it's a black regular vinyl pressing. But the Pilot, it's funny because the second track, Pilot on it, people sometimes recognize because it's been in so many movies. And so it's shown up on soundtracks. That and Pick Up the Phone. there's been a few times where I'm watching TV shows and movies, and I'm like, oh,
there it is. Someone says, was mesmerized by it for several months after I first heard it. Been revisiting a lot recently.
It sounds like that's probably Vishala. I could see Vishala digging this. It's a classic in my opinion.
We're listening to Pilot right now.
As we should.
He's living next to rails. Can tell you.
Okay, I gotta. Yes, it's me.
It is. It's Vishala.
I gotta ask you this question.
Yeah.
So I was watching a gentleman who owns a record store. He does this big YouTube thing. He has a record store in Portland, Oregon. Mm-hmm. He has a record label called Too Many Records, and he puts out these YouTube videos all the time. Mm-hmm. And he was talking about his vinyl collection.
Right.
And he had this package, and he opened up the package, and he was sharing it and holding it up. And then he goes, "Oh shit. I already have this."
Oh.
He has so many records, he's losing track now.
Yep. I've done that.
Okay. That's my question.
I know this question's going to be. I did it for A Storm in Heaven. I didn't realize I already had it. So I bought A Storm in Heaven twice. So I sold it to a friend because I was like, I already have this. Do you want this? He was like, yes. And so it was an easy. That's the only time I've done it. At that point, I didn't have my Discogs set up. And so now every time I'm buying something that's like older, I go to my Discogs and go, do I actually already have this? Just in case I'm forgetting that it's in my stack somewhere. Okay. But yeah, Verve, Storm in Heaven, oops. But then it worked out okay.
I don't have nearly the collection as you and this other gentleman, but I think maybe I did that with the CD. Maybe, I can't remember.
Yeah.
Nothing stands out in mind.
It definitely happens.
All right. Happens to the best of the collectors.
Oh, one last thing about this.
Yeah, that's Neon
Golden, the No Twist. They played the same night that show I went to. They played the same night as Arcade Fire's very first tiny show in Toronto. And so I didn't get to go see Arcade Fire in a tiny venue. It was the Horseshoe. They were just an up and coming band, and I think their EP had just come out at that point when they played Toronto because they were based out of Montreal, right? And so half of my friends went to Arcade Fire and half of my friends came to No Twist, and then we met for whatever and discussed. And the Arcade Fire people, what they described, I was like, oh, I feel like I'm going to regret that later on, because a couple hundred people, tiny venue, all of them on a tiny stage, just freaking out. That would have been something to see. I've seen Arcade Fire a bunch of times since, but that first Horseshoe show sounded like it was pretty rad, but I chose No Twist. I'm sticking by my decision.
Does Arcade Fire host small shows in Toronto or anywhere in Canada, or are they just so big now?
They're a stadium band now. Yeah, no, they're huge. Yeah, I've seen them at like medium-sized venues since. Okay. I don't really do big stadium shows. I'm not a fan, but I've seen them at medium-ish size venues, and they're a great show. Really good show, obviously.
Yeah, they have. I saw them for the Neon Bible tour.
Right.
That was cool. And then when they opened up for LCD Sound System.
Oh wow!
And actually, I was more impressed with LCD.
Oh really?
Yeah, that was my first glimpse into that world. I'm like, oh man, what? Yeah, that was that. But that was a great 1-2 punch. I really enjoyed it.
That's quite the lineup.
Yeah, that was really cool. With Arcade Fire, I feel like they kind of got away from something. I don't know what it is.
They lost me years ago. I mean, Neon Bible was probably the last one of theirs that I bought. But I was more about the first album was awesome. And that's when I saw them touring. I think I saw them twice touring the first like full length album. Yeah. And so it was still sort of like medium sized venues at that point. But yeah, they do their thing, and they're in trouble now anyway. There's been some issues.
What do you mean?
Well, there's some allegations that came out against Win Butler.
Oh.
So some misconduct and whatnot. So it's come out, but they kind of like
Buried it.
They've gone quiet for a little while. I think it's probably related to that as they figure
Oh,
stuff out.
got it. Cleaning that mess up. All right. Okay, see, I didn't listen to this one, so I'm very curious. No.
Oh no! And so they were from Reading. They only lasted, I think, like 5 or 6 years, and they were kind of like a John Peel darling for a little while in there. So they're in the vein of like Broadcast, Stereolab, but a little bit more, I would say, on the twee side. So a little bit of almost like Bell and Sebastian-esque stuff in there as well. So light, airy, poppy, but and also proggy. They do a lot of prog beats in terms of the rhythm that they create in the background of their songs. And so, no, dude, this is one of those like unknown treasures that I feel like it should have been more popular than it was. It doesn't make any sense. But people that know it are like, yeah, it's like it's one of those records that people always, if they know it, they're like, yeah, that's a really good record. So doing my due diligence and letting the world know Saloon was awesome. They had 2 albums, and this was the first one. It's awesome.
This track we're listening to is called Bicycle Thieves. You said Reading, England?
Yeah.
Anyone else watching hear this album? Any thoughts? And go ahead, put down your albums that you're listening to that you would recommend. This sounds right up my alley.
It's beautiful. It's a gorgeous record.
2 albums, that's it, huh?
Yep. They had some singles here and there, but 2 full-length albums, and they're both really good. That's my favorite of the 2. This is what we call progress.
What did you say about John Peel?
Well, he ended up kind of, because he had his radio show, right? And so if you got the stamp of approval from him and his circle, and they kind of got into that for a little while, he was like down with Saloon. Yeah. And so that helped their exposure over in the UK, but it didn't seem to really do much elsewhere unless you were kind of like really into indie. Really, to me, it's like Broadcast led me there. That track you played isn't very broadcasty, but other stuff that they've got on the record goes a bit more synth and a little bit dirtier in some sections. The track you played there was what I'm thinking more towards the twee side, a little bit more like jangly twee, even a bit of a slowcore influence because of the brushes with the drums and stuff like that. But yeah. All
right. Well, this is what we call progress is the name of the album.
You got it. Yeah.
Got it. And this is why I love talking to you. I just constantly learning. I mean, there's only so much time in the day, right? So you really have to carve out like, okay, because I've been listening to a lot of radio. I haven't listened to radio in a long time. Mm-hmm. I've been listening to a lot of this amazing jazz station that we have. And it's been a long time since I've actually settled in with jazz. Mm-hmm. And then I went on this Desmond Decker trip, reggae. So it's just, yeah, it's very, I'm sure you find it very difficult too. Like just to like, oh my God, there's just, and it's nonstop.
Well, especially now, because little bands, like little indie bands can just upload to Bandcamp. And so,
right.
Like I said, every morning I sit there and click on the shoegaze hashtag, kind of go, like, what's come out? And I'm like, And I mean, some mornings there's nothing that really strikes me, but some mornings there's like 3-4 things where I'm like, "Ooh, this is great." And so there's just so much coming out.
So how long before we go talk about the next album? Mm-hmm. Typically, how long do you spend preparing for your DKFM show?
It fluctuates a little bit, but I'd say generally to prepare the playlist of stuff requires about 3 to 4 hours.
Yeah.
Because what I do is, as I'm hearing things, I start to build playlists, and then I use the playlists. I listen to the playlists, kind of going like, does this flow together? Does this work together? Replace pieces, move stuff around, all that kind of stuff. And so about 3 to 4 hours on average, but sometimes it can be a bit longer. Sometimes I'm not happy with the playlist. I'll start fiddling with it a little bit more, or trying to find, because I kind of have like a a flow in my mind once I get through part of it. And I'm like, no, this needs to be kind of like a mellower track. I want something that's a bit more like that's airy here, or I want something that's going to be a little bit that's going to wake people up here. And so I want something that's going to be a little bit more up tempo. And so there's sort of like a play with the ebb and the flow that can take a bit more time.
And in your show, how do you feel like your show has improved over time?
I mean,
is it the actual flow from track to track? And
I feel like because Greg Wilson mixes the shows for me, right? And so I feel like there's a bit of a symbiosis happening in terms of he knows that I was into like DJ culture and mixing stuff now. And I always, the thing that I gave him props for the most was his blending of one track to the next. When he nails it, it's gorgeous. And so I have my ear focused on those transitions more than I used to. When I first started, it felt more like a collection of tracks, but it didn't quite sit with me as well. As I started thinking about it more as an album, in a sense, like each show being an album of a sort, that kind of made more sense to me. And then I thought about the peaks and the valleys of an album and how that works. And also just sort of finding my particular voice in terms of the songs that I choose. So, for example, if you asked Vinka Renner, who listens to all the DKFM shows, and she's like the supporter of all supporters, right? She's gotten better at guessing. She'll make suggestions to me. She's gotten a lot better at it because I've sort of almost refined or defined sounds that work within the Melomania shape or construct. So she knows to not send me like the grungier end of shoegaze because that's just not my thing. And so I think the identity of the show has gotten a little tighter since I've been doing it. Yeah.
So then when you send the list over to Greg, how many days before do you do that, before the actual event?
So I have a show this Thursday. So I'll be sending him. So what I do is I download all of so I buy the tracks because I want to support the artists as well, right? So I buy the tracks or I've gotten tracks from artists as well. And so I'll integrate those tracks, put in my vocals, and then I send it off to him. It'll be today or tomorrow. But I do that for the Thursday show. And so then he sits down and mixes it together, all pretty, packages it together so that it's ready for upload so he can broadcast it.
Does he ever come back to you and say, actually, let's do this, or I'm going to do this? No, he's like, this is your baby. Like, you do what you want to do with this. Early on, he gave me feedback on stuff, which I super appreciated. I think in terms of some of and it was about the order of some of the songs. He was like, that one might have been a little bit more appropriate for later on in the show, or this, that, and the other. And also just vocally, I talk less, which is ironic because I'm doing this show with you. I used to talk more on this show. And honestly, people want to hear the songs. And so I've learned to kind of like only say a little bit and kind of let's just focus on the music. The show's not really about me. I'm the host, but it's about the music. And I want to really shine the music for people, right? Like I want them to feel it, etc. And maybe give them a little tidbit here and there and then back away and give the music the space it deserves. Yeah. Do people ever message you with ideas or suggestions or some kind of feedback?
Yeah. Well, feedback, not so much. Okay. Songs. I get people send me their stuff, which I super appreciate because it's a lot of work promoting your music, right?
Sure.
And so to send it out to, especially if they don't know me, they're like, hey, I've listened to your show. I like it. Will you play one of our songs? It's courageous. I mean, it's art. And so you're sticking your neck out there. And sometimes it works for me. Like sometimes it's something that'll fit, but sometimes it's not. And that's just the way it goes. But that's usually what I get is people DMing me over Instagram or over Facebook and then, asking if they should send along tracks. And I always say yes. Like, always send it along. I'll take a listen.
Yeah. Here is Simon and Claire, DKFM DJ. My name is W. Doing some vinyl picks. What else do you have?
Coming back to Canada. This is a hard one to show. Oh, there, I'll do that. This is Foxes in Fiction.
Okay, see, I didn't get to this one either.
Oh, this is a beautiful record.
I just saw someone was recommending.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
This is called Ontario Gothic. And the track Ontario Gothic is it's one of my favorite tracks. It's just a beautiful, almost like swaying dream pop song. Has such a beautiful melody to it that it just sucks you right in. And Warren, the guy behind this, is from the Toronto area. I think he was originally in like Oakville, Burlington, and now runs Orchid Tapes. He started a record label in New York, in Brooklyn, called Orchid Tapes, and so he does that, and he does all of this stuff from there. Super nice guy, though. He's come to Toronto a few times and played smaller shows, and I try to chat with him a little bit. Very friendly, very, very quiet, but very encouraging. And this whole him getting into music, he lost his brother when he was young. And so a lot of the early music, I think, was his catharsis, his sort of outlet for dealing with the grief of losing his brother, which is, that kind of hits you in the feels. And it's great that he was able to find something, a medium that would allow him to express himself. And he does it in such a beautiful way. It's pretty powerful stuff. Yeah.
I love that artwork.
It's interesting, eh?
Yeah.
It's like religious looking money. And the vinyls actually, they do nice pressings. His Orchid Tapes, they actually do a good job with their colored vinyl. They do nice, sort of like nice coloring and sort of fades, and good sounding. So
what's a track that you recommend?
Ontario Gothic is special.
(2014) when the album came out.
Oh, it's almost 10 years.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'll just tune you out. That's great. It's really good.
Like that song it's really one of my favorite like Canadian songs, I guess. It's incredible. It's really good.
So how many albums have they released? Do you know?
He had like an ambient record before this one, and he's done something called Trillium since then. I think he's got 3 records that are his, because he's done lots of sort of production work and sort of sound work for other people. Because he was originally linked to Viva Melancholia, and I love her stuff. She's incredible. She was like a Kentucky artist who I think she's in like Pittsburgh now. Beautiful, unique sound, and I think he did one of her earlier albums in terms of like either sound engineering or mixing or whatever. So I saw his name and loved the album so much that I looked it up and then was like, oh, right, it's that guy. And he has a knack. When he touches something, he adds that dreamy gauze to it that feels so good.
I wish I had that talent. Sorry, everyone. I'll just stick to talking. If that's even a talent for me. All right. So that was Foxes in Fiction, Ontario Gothic album.
You got it. And ready for the next one?
Ready.
So this was my album of the year a couple of years ago.
Fawning. See, I didn't get to this one either.
2020. Yeah, this is Illusions of Control by Fawning. They're Oakland, so they're not far from you.
Nope.
Graveface Records. And the reason I wanted to show this as well is I think they're wrapping up their next record, which will hopefully be out before the end of the year. And I don't know they're another kind of dreamy synth, but with like a live drum sound type bands that just hover in the right spot. It's the perfect amount of like ambient mixed with pop structure. So it's like the 3 to 4 minute songs of pop structure, ambient with really, sweet female vocals that really kind of like just reverberate and good textures. And this one, it was my album of the year. I can't remember, it was 2020. So everybody picked something else. Remember, because we all did our lists. And people were like, what the heck is that? And I'm like, this is this album.
This is it.
It's so good. And the vinyl is nice because it's Graveface. And Graveface always does nice vinyl. And there was a track that I kept playing, one of the singles on DKFM. Like I really bigged it up a lot. And there's a song called "You're Not One to Cry." It's like, well, side B on the record, and it ended up cracking like the top 20, I think, of the year on DKFM because I just kept talking about it. And they do. It's Greyface.
Nice.
They do need vinyl pressings. You know, got to give it to Ryan Greyface. He knows how to get vinyl records pressed.
This is "You're Not One to Cry." I feel like I'm frozen.
Oh, you are? I thought you were just like really pensive. Like he's really listening hard. I can hear you though.
I don't know what the heck is going on. So frustrating. Whatever.
Oh, you're back. You're back.
I'm back, everyone. So real quickly, for people that don't know Greyface Records, Ryan Greyface, give us a little background.
Jeez. So Savannah, Georgia, they're kind of, I don't know, Record Club is really cool. He does some amazing pressings. He's one of those people that have been around the past like 15, 20 years. I've known about him in various capacities. I think I first found out about him through Dream End because that was his post-rock project. But I didn't realize that he was the record label at that point in time. I just had the Dream End EP. And so he also got involved with like Monster Movie, which is, you know, obviously Slowdive side project that was incredible as well. And so Greyface had a finger in that as well, along with Stargazer Lilies later on. So he knows the right kind of artist for the sort of the ethos that he's trying to create for his label. It's got a great record shop that I've never been to but want to go to in Savannah.
Yeah, I would love to.
A museum of oddities. And so he's got, I think, 2 locations. I think he opened up one in Chicago and he's got one in Savannah. That looks interesting. That my wife really wants to go visit.
And I think one of my friends, when she got the Beachy Head album, it came with bubblegum.
Yeah, he does that with the Record Club stuff.
Yeah, like
or actually, he'll do like pixie sticks.
Yeah, pixie sticks.
Pixie sticks, bubblegum. There's usually some kind of one of those fish things you put in your hand and it curls up depending on the heat in your hand. Like so he puts in trinkets, and he also does like a points thing where you can, if you buy their records, you get points like in cereal box points, and you can add them up and get free stuff. And so I've actually cashed in and gotten like a couple of free records because I just collected the points for so long. I'm like, actually, I've got a bunch of points. And so he's got a special club for his points. It's just a neat idea that really.
Yeah, his attention to detail. Yeah. Just those little things that it's like, man, that's art. That's all he's creating.
He's just dedicated. He's a super, super dedicated guy. And
if I'm not mistaken, I believe, sorry, just so people can see.
It's okay because you're frozen. You're actually still on the screen while you're doing. Oh, you're back.
I'm back. Well, the Beachy Head album. Shoot. Oh, here it is. I think. I don't know if we talked about this. Just incredible. I think his wife did the artwork.
Oh, maybe Chloe.
Yeah.
I think it was Chloe. Yeah.
So it's just so good.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
Do you remember when this dropped and everyone was just going gaga over this?
Yes.
I mean, people were just like, "Oh my god!"
I have the Record Club edition of that, so I got it in the mail a bit early because he'll send out the Record Club editions first. I just remember it showing up. I mean, for me, I was such a huge Monster Movie fan, and the whole hype behind it was that it's Christian Saville, and it's probably going to be Monster Movie adjacent, and it totally was. There's very much a Monster Movie vibe to it, a bit more upbeat, but So I was thrilled to get that, and yes, people did dig it big time. Yeah,
that was a good one. All right, so that was Fawning.
Illusions of Control. Yeah.
Anything else in your goodie bag?
2 records left. And so I wanted to, I can't believe I haven't talked about this one yet. So I thought, going over to Buffalo, New York, the Day Sleepers, Creation.
I did listen to this. This was gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. Did you get to Flood in Heaven?
Don't know.
Because it's near the end of the album. So like
No, I
Creation,
did not.
that
No,
track is, the second track is awesome, obviously.
Okay.
And then the second last track, Flood in Heaven, is also just, it's special.
Tell us a little about them.
So the guy's name is Jeff. I can't remember his last name, but he's sort of a, how do I put this? Well, if you think about it, if people know DKFM, they'll know Chrissy's show, and her show is called Drowned in a Sea of Sound. That's a Day Sleepers record. So that's the name of, I think, the first record that Jeff released. And so that whole very ethereal, dream poppy type of shoegaze, Jeff does really well. Like the Day Sleeper stuff is really, really focused on that, with a lot of swirl, with a lot of. I found it funny because the album cover being sort of like outer space is so appropriate, because it has a very space feeling to it. But I find it very rich. Like the layering of the guitars, it just feels like it's 1,000 guitars, because he really builds a nice sort of echo to everything that he's doing on the record. So I just needed to show it. The other thing that's special about this, and this just shows the dedication, I think they had to do, I can't remember what it's called, not like a GoFundMe, but a record label, like a record printing process, that it's like what Swerve Driver did, where they had to collect the money first before pressing the records. And the record didn't quite come out the way they wanted it to. But they sent us that original album, and then at no extra charge, they sent us a new version. So I've got 2 printed versions of the record that cool. they just sent. And I'll show, I think the reason that they really went out of their way is because the new version is so, it's impactful. So I can see why they went out of their way to be like, no, let's try this again, people. And it's just it's a beautiful pressing.
That is.
So I'm very thankful to them for being so, they must have done it out of pocket, because they didn't charge us anything to then send a second record that was pressed the way they wanted it to.
Did I ask you this question in previous episodes? Do you hear a difference when you have a colored variant versus standard black?
You've asked me that before. It depends on the pressing of the record, I find, more than anything else. And so, because some of them are a bit thinner, a bit rougher. People have talked about how some colored pressings don't have good sound quality, but I don't know. For me personally, I like the art behind the splatter vinyl or whatever like that. To me, that's part of the attribute. And I listened to the record a couple of times, but I also have the MP3s. And so I kind of I don't wear my records out, I guess. I'll play them when I'm feeling in the mood for vinyl, I'll do that. Otherwise, I'll listen to the MP3s instead, just to save the quality of the vinyl. So that might be part of it as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the track that you love, Flood in Heaven.
Mm.
Jeez.
Yeah. You ready for the last one? This is the big one with the trivia question and everything.
Oh, right? Yes. What is that trivia question?
And so we asked our viewers. So the song, the Drab Majesty song, 39 by Design, has a video, and the song itself is based on the happenings of a certain religious group. And so I posed that as a question in the Facebook post to see if anybody would look it up. If you watch the video and you know anything about radical religious groups in the US, you probably got it. But I'm just curious if anybody wants to chime in with which religious group the song is based on in the video.
If anyone wants to put it in, yeah, go for it. I did not know this, so when I found out the answer, I was like, okay, got it. It makes sense.
Did you when you watched? Did you watch the video?
I did.
And so, did you know from the video, or did you have to Google it beyond that?
No, I Googled it beyond just to learn more about it,
Okay.
and I remember that. I remember that event quite well.
Yeah, that's just it. It was pretty. It was huge. It was huge. I mean, we're a little bit older, I guess, but like it was huge. And the video. Did you watch the promotional video from the religious group in comparison to the music video?
No.
You should do that because he actually does all the same gestures as the promotional video from the religious group. It's really,
do you want to tell people?
Yes, sure. So it's based on Heaven's Gate. And so the 39 by design, the 39 people that took their lives to go, to the spaceship.
The mothership.
The mothership, right. Yeah. And so huge cultural phenomenon that these Drab Majesty folks, just the song it was their lead single. So it's a really good song. And the video, when I saw the video, because I follow a little bit about religious groups. So when I saw the video, my jaw just dropped. So I'm like, yeah, now I know why it's called 39 by design. It's shot for shot, a lot of the same stuff from the Heaven's Gate video. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you stomach that stuff, go ahead, people. Check that out.
It's a good video. So this is the album cover. So the album is called The Demonstration by Drab Majesty. And I saw them first. I bought this album when they were on tour with Cold Cave. They were opening for Cold Cave. I didn't know who they were. They performed, and then I had to know more about them. Their live show is really interesting. They have costumes and white makeup and suits, and sometimes I'll do certain, I don't know what to call them on stage, sort of like there's iconography that they're definitely trying to follow. Maybe not as much anymore, but early on, like they came out with incense and like robes one time that I saw them in Toronto in a tiny place. It just came out and started like and had lots of black light. It was really, it's like a show.
But it wasn't gimmicky. It wasn't like that.
No, you feel like they're kind of, it's a show and it's entertaining and interesting, but you talk to them afterwards, they're just really nice people. Really easy to talk to, really friendly. They'll be out on the sidewalk after shows, just chatting it up with folks. And that's kind of cool because the facade is so strong with the look that they've got that you don't quite know what to make of it in terms of approachability or whatever. Like they could be, you think back to our day, if a band looked like that, they'd probably be dicks if they were like an 80s or a 90s band, right? Whereas super approachable, really nice, really friendly. And it's awesome talking to them while they're dressed like that too, because it just feels like a weird juxtaposition.
I remember that experience with my life with the Thrill Kill Cult.
Oh, geez. Really?
I went, there was a small club here in the Bay Area called One Step Beyond. And my brother said, "Yeah, let's go see that." He was really into them. And he didn't tell me anything about their shows.
Oh, wow.
He just said, "Get ready."
Yeah.
So they walked out and they're all in their leather gear, and it was like an S&M show. And it was just crazy. And I thought, is this what this is schlock? And then I started I'm like, wow, this is part of their shtick.
Yep. Yeah, you're lucky you got to see them. I've only heard about those shows. They sounded really fascinating.
Yeah.
Whereas
my eyes.
Drab Majesty's like in your hood as well, because they're a California duo.
I looked at them, I said they're LA.
They're LA, yeah.
I think they're LA based.
So they should be around somewhere. They're like this record, The Demonstration, is probably it's hard to say this, but it's definitely one of my favorite records from the past decade. Like I go back to it a lot because the whole thing is just so good. And they've had albums since this one that are solid that I like, but I always go back to The Demonstration. It's just some amazing tracks on it. So if you had to describe them, because I always have a hard time describing their sound because the image and everything. It's like, it's like synthy gothy.
Synthy goth, yeah. Yeah.
A little bit of post-punk, but also a bit of dream pop. Like there's like an injection of dreaminess to what they're doing. So it's quite the balancing act that they do.
I'm going to ask you before we wrap this up. We're going to do a little lightning round. We haven't done this before.
Oh boy. Okay.
All right. So this is what's going to happen. I'm just going to rattle off a word, and whatever comes to your mind. Oh, don't spit out coffee.
Okay.
By the way, thanks everyone for tuning into our episode number 5. Simon Says Vinyl Picks here. This has been a really enjoyable experience getting to know Simon and obviously his incredible vast knowledge of music. But before we get into lightning round, I did want to say, Simon, I really appreciate the way that you share the details and the passion about these albums. And I like how you do it in a way that's educational, of course, but there's a soft approach to this. It's not like you're wagging the finger and anything like that. Because I've come across people like that, and it's like it turns me off.
Right. Yeah.
So you're very celebratory and obviously endorsing these bands and albums. So just want to give you a compliment there.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Because I mean, for me, music's kind of a personal journey anyway. Mm-hmm. And so like what resonates with me might not jive with somebody else. And that's totally fine. I mean, to me, if it's filling that place you need it to fill, it's doing its job. Like that's the coolest part about music.
Yeah.
So it's funny that you talk about celebrating the music, because you know that was the scene that celebrates itself. That was the original term for shoegaze. It was actually, they used to make fun of shoegaze for being the scene that celebrates itself.
Perfect.
There you go. A bit more trivia for you there.
Love it. All right, so here's what we're going to do. Lightning round. So we're going to do one example. This pops in your brain. Just say it.
Okay.
Okay, ready?
Sure.
Slow dive.
When the sun hits.
Okay. So that's it. So when I say this, you're going to say that.
Okay.
Okay, ready?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be very careful on my prompts here. Let me get my little sheet here.
You got a sheet. So you like premeditated this without telling me. I love this.
And we're only going to do 5.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. When I say sushi, you say?
Sashimi.
When I say record store day, you say?
Lineups.
When I say hockey, you say?
Canadian.
When I say San Francisco, you say?
The Bay Area.
And when I say Glastonbury Festival, you say?
Mud.
Have you been?
No, but I mean, all of the television, it's always people sliding in mud.
We're going to do a little bonus here. What I'm going to say is little prompt. Ready? Name one favorite concert you've been to.
Holy shit.
I know.
Why would you do this to me?
I know.
Actually, the other day I was thinking about a particular concert that I really enjoyed. I'm never going to say any concert is my favorite concert because, I have a hard time depending on mood. But I saw Bjork at a place called it was called the Hummingbird Center in Toronto at the time.
Okay.
And originally we went because my wife loves Bjork, and this was for Vespertine, I think. So it was very orchestral. So she had like a full orchestra with her and like throat singers and all the rest of it. And the sound, the venue she picked is for classical music. Nice. And so the sound and everything was so immersive and so just gorgeous. I guess I wasn't sure what to expect. I'd seen Bjork during her post tour, so it was more like electronic-y and more dancey, and Aphex Twin opened for that one. And so that was a different Bjork, and then seeing Bjork in that kind of situation was really impressive. And I was actually thinking about the show the other day, just because it created some really nice swells for me. And I don't really collect Bjork records, but that live show was incredible. It was really good.
An artist, a band that is no longer around, that you wish you had seen back in the day?
Oh, I've Facebook posted this. Velocity Girl.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're
Wait,
my,
I've seen a band you have not seen?
which is what you said last time. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was a huge fan of theirs, but I was too young, and then I just missed them, and then they broke up. So that was that. But I loved, especially early, I like copacetic era Velocity Girl that would make me cry. I mean, I never thought all the reforming bands. I remember joking at the My Bloody Valentine curated ATP in New York. Like, what was that? That was a while ago. It was like 2011 or 2010. I remember joking to my friend, like, my dream would be for Slowdive to reform, but that'll never happen. So I should stop thinking about it. So maybe I should just say that to my friend about Velocity Girl, and maybe I'll get lucky.
And I think from what we've heard on that podcast with Neil Halstead, we're going to get a Slowdive album soon.
Yeah, they've been
by the end of the year.
Yeah, they've been done recording for a little bit. They keep posting it on their Insta, and so people are all doing this and waiting for the new Slowdive record to drop.
Oh man. Okay. A last question here. A deceased artist.
Mm.
A deceased artist that you would love to have seen. Did you ever see Leonard Cohen?
Yeah, like a long time ago.
Okay.
It's so funny because I that popped into my head, and I'm like, no, I've seen him.
Okay.
You know what? I'm not sure. I'd have to actually
Okay. All right.
I'd have to sit down with that one for a while and like have a good think, because I feel really, really lucky. I've seen a lot of the folks that I wanted to see.
Yeah.
And the folks that I didn't get to see reformed later on for me. So like the shoegaze stuff, especially because I was just a bit too young to see some stuff the first time around in the early 90s. I wasn't quite legal age to get into the bars yet. So in the early 90s. So that all reformed. My Bloody Valentine, Slowdive, Ride, all those kids came back. So
And
they're all alive.
This question applies to the people that are watching. If there's an artist band that you wish you could have seen, go ahead, put it in. We want to hear from you. I think for me, back in the day, just to see it happen, I would love to have seen Buddy Holly.
No, I mean, from a cultural perspective, absolutely.
I once in a while I put on that music, and it does something for me. I'm not sure exactly what it does. It freezes me. It puts me in a pause mode.
You just made me think of somebody, actually. I really would have liked to see Miles Davis.
Oh yeah.
So, because that was a very formative early jazz thing for me with my dad and his records, because he loved Miles Davis.
Nina Simone.
Yeah. And so definitely, I probably would go that route.
All great picks. All right. What's coming up? When's your next show?
Thursday. So whatever numerical day that is, I can't remember. So yeah, Thursday this week, it'll be on DKFM, 10 p.m. Eastern time. So that's 7 p.m. for you on the West Coast, folks. And so yeah, I'm putting that show together today. I've got it like 80% done. So I got to figure out what's going to make the flow work, and then listen to it a couple times, and then get it off to that awesome Greg Wilson fella from the mix.
Does Greg ever sleep?
I wonder. There's a few of them. I'm just like, so you have a job, you do this, and sleeping happens when? Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. DKFM. Very much support that. Simon Clare, episode number 5. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It's always an awesome time. I appreciate it.
And not to bombard you with more work, but if you ever get a chance and you want to put the list of those artists, bands,
I will do that. I will do that for sure.
Everyone, my name is W, host of the High Art on the Edge page. Don't forget, next event, May 12th, Sunshine's Cold with, that will be on the 12th. And then on the 18th, I have another event coming up soon. And that, my goodness, I forgot who that's with.
That's how busy you are now.
Yeah, super busy.
Yeah.
Getting busy here. Anyways, thanks again, Simon. Much appreciated. Everyone, keep listening to great music. You have a library now full. Thank you, Simon. Take care, everyone. We'll talk soon.
Take care.
Ciao.